You brought it up, and I'm going to say, Floyd Mayweather is a very, very, very wealthy man. These numbers that we hear are a work.
What numbers?
He made $300 million in one night. He made 100. No, he didn't. It's a work. It's all a work. None of the math checks out. Again, Floyd is very, very, very wealthy. But those numbers that we hear around Floyd Mayweather aren't real. It took 2 seconds to do the math on the McGregor thing. The McGregor number's not real. They made $300 million from the pay-per-view. 55 from the gate. And they always said his take home was like $200 to $300 million from that fight. There's no math where that works. Because of the 300, half of it doesn't go to him or McGregor. So half of it goes to the cable providers.
The only thing I will say about this is, and I don't know what it is, but doesn't Forbes always come out with like who made the most for a year?
Forbes also said Kanye West made like $4 billion.
Well, I think that's worth $4 billion.
Yeah, none of that is true. None of it. No.
Okay.
Floyd, again, Floyd is very wealthy. Those purses are a work. And he works it, and good for him. But those aren't real. There's no way that those are real. Okay, great.
Floyd is wealthy enough that he bought Isaiah Thomas a Bentley.
Oh, he bought. Okay. You just paused between Isaiah Thomas and Bentley way too long. I was like, wait a minute.
A Bentley. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he's a billionaire. I'm sure Floyd Mayweather is a billionaire. If he's not, he's at least flirting with being a billionaire. I don't know. I truthfully don't know much about him, like what else he does, like where else his money might be. Stuff. But I feel like those purses, I'm talking only about those fight purses, are fake. Like what was the channel? The Zeus?
Zeus, yeah.
And you said they paid him how much? There's no way.
Well,
there's no way.
Much like I think we talked about this too with Spence and Crawford. It's what are these people called? The not trust fund, the hedge investors. Like they made $25 million a piece on this fight. So somebody put up $50 million. Some investors put up $50 million for their guaranteed purse. Now you could probably add another. I don't know. I could be wrong, but another $20 million a piece after pay-per-view buys.
Well, those guys got to get that money back at some point. So that money would come out of the pay-per-view buys, wouldn't it?
Maybe. I don't know how.
And I would think they got to get that money back and then some, because otherwise, why would you do it?
I have no idea, but they do it all the time. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know how you put up $50 million and make money. I don't know.
Well, the fight has to make $100 million. That's how. That's why I'm saying, like, you don't do it. I mean, maybe you do it for fun. I don't know. Do you spend $50 million for fun? Like, what would you?
Don't ask me. I don't have a spaceship like yours.
It's exactly the same.
Jesse, what did he say his was doing? I was like, mine don't do that.
Hey,
he's got the summons where he has the bat.
This dude.
Yeah, he calls the phone.
This dude,
he calls the cartoon on the phone.
This dude rode to work on autopilot today, Hammer.
Oh no!
Yeah, he did it.
You did not.
Yes, he did. Sending text messages, working on graphics during the show.
The whole time. I just tested out a little bit. I was on what's that? 80 Interstate 80. I was on there. Let me just
autopilot.
It was straight. It was going straight. So I was like, let me see.
That's risky.
Hey, James, I want to ask you a 49ers question as we dive into conversation here. This is a question for the room, asking everybody here. Are the 49ers a lock in the NFC West?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Because everyone, we've all got the Rams on the, they're going
on the way down. Yeah.
It might boil down to how much do you believe in Seattle? Like, Seattle. Now, I hate to say this because I think this is what people say with the Kings, but Seattle's like, let me see that one more time. And I'm trying to hesitate to say that. I don't want to say that, but I like Geno. Let me see that. Run that back one more time.
Well, I mean, even with Seattle, I mean, they did really well last year. They made the playoffs. They did really well. They lost the division by like 3 games.
Yeah, no, they were good. But the point is, like, do you think that they can do that again? And everyone know, like, Arizona's not in the conversation.
No.
They're not in the conversation at all. So it kind of feels like a foregone conclusion. The 49ers are like the Las Vegas Aces. They've already clinched. They've already clinched the playoff spot.
The 49ers are the closest thing to a division lock that the NFL has this year. I'll say that much. Anything can happen, but they're the closest thing to it.
I agree with you. And I think it's crazy because for so many years, NFC West was tough. You know, they've always had good representation. They've always been solid from top to bottom. But at this point, there's a couple of teams that are on the downswing. And, you know, I think we don't believe in Seattle, mainly because Seattle really didn't believe in Seattle either. And they tried to do a reboot and things just went way better than they thought. And all of a sudden they're in the conversation. Now, whether they can remain in the conversation, it might depend on what happens around the league, what happens in the NFC and other spots. But it's still a well-coached team. I'm not, you know, they've got great wide receivers. They've got some nice defensive players. Overall, I just don't think that they have the overall talent to compete with a team like the 49ers.
No, I don't see it.
The Kings are just the Kings. Sorry, I'm putting out your graphic. The 49ers are just stacked.
It's
just
stacked. If they have good health, good enough health, they should handle that. They should handle that.
Part of me realized, is Nick Bosa just skipping camp?
He might be.
Like, hey, let's haggle over just so that, you know, I'm not sure about this slight little language in the let's take another day and sit on this thing. And Nick Bosa returns, and you know what, a week left in camp.
He might be. Dr. David in the chat, he says the NFC has been historically weak. Not the last like 10, 12, probably 10 to 15 years.
NFC West or the NFC Conference?
NFC West.
Oh,
it's not historically. The last 10 to 15 years, it's been consistently one of the better divisions in football. Yeah, but let me tell you this right now. We need to go back to them early 90s. I need a weak division. Give me a sorry NFC West, please. We had the toughest division of football for like 5, 6, 7 years straight. What did that get us? Nothing. Hey, give me them sorry mid-90s NFC West again, please.
You got the Cardinals.
All it got us was a bunch of championships they should have won through Kenny's world.
That's right.
That's right.
At least three during that time. Tragic.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about Bosa. I would say this. I think there should still be some concern about the offensive line, just overall depth. And it's something that you're going to have to, they could pop up. I mean, their front seven on the defensive side is absolutely incredible. And they're going to be great on the defensive side of the ball. They even got, you know, like I'm confident. Last year, I was not confident going into the season. The year before that, I know I was very unconfident with their defensive backfield, but they've increased like every position there. And I think like their defense is so incredibly deep from top to bottom. So it should be fun.
I asked this question earlier, I didn't really ask the question. We were just having a conversation. For me, the 49ers were good. Obviously they are good. The 49ers were good entering last year. And I believe that they had an opportunity to win a championship last year. Then they got Christian McCaffrey. And to me, that felt like this is a Super Bowl champion. This is a Super Bowl team right here. We were kind of going through the rosters of the 49ers and the Kings. And, you know, obviously we're high on the Kings, but I'll ask you, what's the player that can make the Sacramento Kings a championship contender? Who could be who's that Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers? Who's that player to the Kings.
Yeah, like if they were to go out and make a move.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of players that you could talk about, like superstar level players, that if they went out and made a move, I still would like hold on to the same thing that I've said forever. It's that OG Anunoby is a guy that changes the tenor of the defense in a way that I think just really would help this team. But outside of that, like it's a balanced team. That's what you're looking for, right? It's not balanced on the defensive side of the ball, but it's really balanced offensively. And overall, there's so many weapons. And so when you're looking at a team like that, I don't look for an outside piece that could bring in like 25 points per game. The Kings don't need that. They were able to roll last season with, De'Aaron Fox averaging 25, but no one else averaging over like 19.3. So it's the depth of the team. And I think that they added to that, the scoring depth with Sasha Vezenkov, with Chris Duarte. So if I'm going to point to one thing that they could use, is just that one defensive minded stopper that leads a defense, that has a mentality that changes how other players play. And that's why I always come back to the same person. And, again, I come back to OG, not because I think he's the greatest player in the NBA. I come back to him because of the fit. And I come back to him because I think that he would be more available, because I like Mikal Bridges, I think is a better player and would play a better role for the Kings. And I would even have more faith in him than I would OG Anunoby, but they're never going to trade Mikal Bridges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that for sure. We threw some names out there, and like, I don't know, not saying how you would get them and all this other stuff, but a guy like Andrew Wiggins will be perfect, I feel, for the King, because he does have the ability to go off for 25 at any given time. But if you're saying, hey, Wiggins, we don't need your scoring tonight, we need you to make sure you make Jason Tatum's life a living hell, he can do that. And I think the combination of both, with a guy that's comfortable being maybe your third best player, I think that would be perfect. How they get that guy, where he comes from, I have no idea. But I was thinking a guy like Andrew Wiggins would be perfect. I put it to you like this, and everybody like this. If Andrew Wiggins, say it's 2K, and you could have two of the same player or something like that. Andrew Wiggins on the Warriors and Andrew Wiggins on the Kings, that Kings team would be way, way better than the Warriors team.
I think so too, but I mean, Wiggins throughout his career has been so inconsistent. Like you're always left wanting a little bit more. And I know defensively he's had sort of an awakening, or he did for one season where he was incredible defensively, but I'm not sure that he's shown that consistently throughout, the like 7-8 years he's been in the league, where you feel like he's such a valuable piece. There are other players that to me just stand out more. And so while I like Wiggins, I don't love him. I kind of put him in a category like, and again, he's a better defensive player than this, but sort of in the Rudy Gay category. Like he fills a role, and he has even a Harrison Barnes. Like he fills a role and he does what he's supposed to do. But is there a world in which there is a better player at that position that you could find? So if we're talking about dream world, like if I could go out and find players that I think would fit it, he would be pretty low on my list. Like, again, I think that a player like OG or Mikal Bridges, or even like if Donovan Mitchell comes up for grabs, like that's something that Cleveland might be faced with, because there's a lot of talk that he will not be signing back there. There is like
from your
murmurs.
boy. Your boy is on a one-man marching crew with this Donovan Mitchell thing.
Yeah. I'm not sure which one is my
Tim
guy.
Bontemps.
Tim. Okay.
Well, and I'm not trying to like clown Tim Bontemps. He was the first person I think who brought it, but Tim Bontemps is the one who's like, trade him now.
Yeah.
Like right now, like before it's too late, trade him now. It's like, whoa, man, like one shot at this and then it's over. Man, that's tough. I'll throw one at you, Hammer.
Yeah,
Paul
go for
George.
it. No, he just misses too much time.
All
And
right.
he's, I mean, in my opinion, he's kind of too old to, like, if you're looking for a 1 or 2 year run, that's fine. But like Donovan Mitchell's a year older than De'Aaron Fox. They were drafted in the same draft. And he's a player that, again, you don't need that 25 points per game. And you need him to be a better defender than he was in when he was with the Jazz in that last playoff series. But that was counter to anything that we'd ever seen from him before. Like, he's always been a solid defender. He was brought coming into the league. He was a guy who barely averaged double figures in college, and everyone looked at him as a defensive-minded player. And he went around, and when he had draft stops, he pitched everybody on how he could be a point guard. And that's something that, a lot of players in the past have done, where they talk about, I could be this for you. And then you're sitting there like, well, that's not what you've ever done before. And now we see him. He's just a really good basketball player. He's a super athlete. I think he could be a really fun running mate with De'Aaron Fox. And I think that there's a lot more defensive potential than what he's shown over the course of his career so far.
That would go crazy. That would go crazy right there. You get Donovan Mitchell.
That's a swing for the fence move. That's like a big time swing for the fence move.
But for sure. But if you're landing Donovan, you're landing him with like a year left on his deal.
I mean, as long as you don't give up Keegan Murray, I would take that chance.
The same with OG.
I got you. I got you. Like, you can't trade Keegan Murray if you don't have like long-term commitment for somebody. No, I'm 100% with that.
But I'm not even give pretty much everything else up that I needed to. The Harrisons, the Herders, Davion, picks, all that other stuff for the shot to get him in the building and try and keep him here.
Yeah, and look, I think this is all pie in the sky, right? We're not actually reporting anything. We're just like, hey, what would make sense for this team?
It's a conversation for August 2nd. That's all.
Yeah. And I think the reason why you look at Mitchell is, number one, he's a super athlete. He just changes the speed and the dynamic nature of your squad. And if you have the shooters and everything else around him to support him, I just think he's a fun basketball player. He's one of those players, like we always talk about this, like you either have to have Fox or Sabonis on the court at all times, right? We all know that. Like, there is not a moment where the Kings don't have Fox and Sabonis. And when they don't, it goes south pretty quickly. If you had a player like that, now you got three of them, where at any given time, I need one of these three players. So if you have injuries, you can withstand it. If you have off nights, you can withstand it. And so I don't know. And I don't know if he's a perfect fit either way, but him and De'Aaron have been friends for a long, long time. They've known each other since high school. And they're in the same draft class. Like, there is a lot of like sort of relationship that's there. And I'm not sure that he would want to stay in Sacramento. He's a guy who, had his like mindset on going to play for the Knicks, and that didn't work out. And that might be where we're at again.
And there's another guy I was throwing out there. I talked about him the other day. I already know how Ham's going to react to this one. I already know. But I said we had game 15, I think it was, because people were upset it was 15. The Kings Bulls. And I said, I don't know. You think about trade deadline. You think about somebody that might be attainable, might be able to get. I said, man, I'd keep my eye on Zach LaVine. And if Zach LaVine could get to Sacramento, he's not the defensive guy that we're talking about. You do have a concern of injuries, but that's a guy that
Blade Caraway,
like he just talked about. Now it's like, all right, well, what you gonna do? You gonna stop Fox? You gonna stop Sabonis? Oh, you did that. Now who's guarding Zach LaVine? Like your second or third best defender? You can go buy him. That's barbecue. Like, it just, and then Keegan Murray's out there. I just think Zach LaVine on this team, it could get scary.
Yeah, my problem with LaVine, again, the knee injury from a few years back, that's a concern. But he's played well enough to move past it, and he's had other injuries as well. But like, I think he has to wear like one of those emergency bracelets that says he's allergic to defense. So like he does not play any defense at all. And you get to a certain point with teams where, like, can you score more? And is there a reason to score more? Like, you have to be able to get stops. And I get it that you want to, like, as much fun and as many high flying basketball players as possible. But if a guy can only play on one end of the court, that doesn't make any sense to me. Not for this team, because this team has all that other stuff and they're able to do what they do offensively without having like overwhelming superstars. What they have are all-star level players in Fox and Sabonis, but they have a system in place where, it really does open things up for players like Keegan or Harrison or Malik or Kevin Harder to take turns being that next level player each and every night to go along with those guys. And there's a lot of value in having that type of, sharing is caring type mentality with your team. And not to say that Zach LaVine wouldn't share, but I'd also have concerns because he really hasn't won at all. And we could point a lot of different things, but I mean, that team was built to win a couple of years ago, and they haven't strung it together and
he won a
figured it out.
championship, didn't he?
The Bulls?
Oh, Zach. No, I'm thinking of Kyle Kuzma. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. The Bulls. No. Kyle Kuzma. Yeah, Kyle won one with the Lakers, but
Zach LaVine didn't. That team never put together to win.
Well, the team was put together when, but
guys got hurt.
Yeah, like they've been hurt, like that. That's why
one of the guys.
That's well, to James's point, but that's one of the to your point, Casey. The Bulls will be a fascinating team to watch around February because it doesn't feel like they're going to be good, and it doesn't feel like they really have a direction. And I think DeMar DeRozan's contract is expiring. We're under the unfortunate, like I just don't, it does not feel like Lonzo Ball is playing again. Like the fact that he was ruled out. And when I say again, I don't think he's playing again ever. Yeah. Like when you're ruled out for the year before the draft and you didn't like just pop an Achilles, like that's really concerning. Like they can't pinpoint what's wrong with him. And because of that, they can never really move forward. Yeah. So you've got these group of guys where you got Zach LaVine, who's really good. You got DeMar DeRozan, who's really good. They kind of brought it together for a season to beat bad basketball teams and lose early in the playoffs. But DeRozan's contract is expiring. Lonzo's gone. You just brought Vucevic back in one of the more confusing moves of the offseason. And now it's like, okay, there's Sacramento run it back, and then there's Chicago run it back. I can't figure out the Chicago run it back.
I'm with you. Like that team, like on paper,
it will be interesting.
Yeah, on paper they should be really good. Colby White's a solid scorer. He's a fun player. Vucevic is a good player. Patrick Williams is a good player. He's had injury issues too, but I think maybe that's part of the issue is that they have had so many injury issues and you can't really see what they are. But I don't know. Like at some time you got to blow things up when things go to south. And I felt the same way about the Orlando Magic for years. And I guess maybe the common denominator is Vucevic. Like that's kind of the same thing you felt there. Like when they had Aaron Gordon, they had why am I drawing a blank? Their shooting guard, Evan Fournier. You're always waiting. Like, why do you guys keep running this back and winning 33, 34 games? Like you were not good enough. You have to make some sort of change that would like really shake everything up and move you in a different category. And they finally did it, but they did it like 2 or 3 years after they should have, at least from my book. That's what I kept looking at them like, why aren't you blowing this thing up? So I kind of get the same feeling with the Chicago Bulls. Like there was a moment where you put a team together and everyone was so hyped on them like 2 seasons ago. They're so hyped. Maybe it's 3 seasons now, but it just never materialized. And if you can't show that you're improving and your players are just getting older, you got to break it up at some point. I'm in agreement that I'm really surprised they brought back Vucevic. And, I'm surprised they didn't shop DeMar DeRozan heavily. And I'm sure if they're not winning, they will shop him heavily during the season.
We'll come back. I think there's a few more conversations, James, that we can loop you in regarding the Sacramento Kings roster. We were having discussions like talking about the Kings roster and the 49ers roster and just glaring issues that might be out there with these two rosters. So we'll talk about that when our 1320 Kings Insider and creator of the Kings Beat become a premium subscriber over at the King's Beat and take part in the virtual happy hour tomorrow. Only premium subscribers can be a part of that virtual happy hour. They're always a great time. Jim Crandall's going to join James and the crew over there at the King's Beat. So head over to thekingsbeat.com right now, and we will come back with more here at D'Lo and KC with James Ham, brought to you by Sky River Casino on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. Aces Liberty, baby.
What's going on? How are you guys?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Busy.
Yeah.
Like trying to remodel a bathroom that I need to get done. It's been sitting there for way too long, and finally I got to it. That and making food for people, and just busy.
You said you're making food for people. Do you have company or just...
No, we got some friends that going through some stuff. So.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All
right. David, I might ask Jim Crandall who the crybaby of the week is, or you can ask him if you join the show.
There you go.
There it is.
Hey, what the hell is going on in the chatty house? What? It's like the Royal Rumble in here. What is going on?
Like going to World War III over Cal and Stanford football.
Like, what is happening? I'm seeing Aldrin J and David and Drew Down keep sending messages about Andrew Wiggins. Like, is someone combating Andrew Wiggins? Like, what is happening?
This is old chatty house energy right here. Back when they used to fight all the time.
They're talking about football. Cal and Stanford should stop football. Aldrin J don't like that. There's some noob in here named Cam. Some noob in here talking crazy.
He says all Cali love, but y'all got to catch up.
Some noob. And look, I'll tell you right now, Cam,
hey, welcome.
Ain't no all Cali love. We don't like you and the Warriors. It ain't Cali love. All right, let's be perfectly clear. All right.
Wait.
I want to be perfectly clear. We don't like the Warriors. The Warriors go up against the Lakers. We going for the Lakers. Warriors go up against the Knicks. We going for the Knicks. We don't like y'all. We never will. It ain't Cali love.
Wow.
And you stop being a noob and recognize what's going on over here in D'Lo and KC.
Also,
well, I mean, look at this comment here, Cam.
Yeah,
like
tough.
That's all you said?
That's
all
tough.
I said was Wiggs over Fox. Well, your opinion's wrong.
Hey,
like
Cam. Goddamn 49ers play the NFL, not the NBA. Get it through your head. We don't like y'all. We don't like you guys. It's simple as that. It ain't Cali love. We don't like the Warriors. We don't root for the Warriors. We hope you burn in hell. And that's just what it is.
What the hell is happening? Well, John might be right. We just haven't quite recovered from Trista Thompson.
Chatty house is back.
Man.
Oh, see, I missed Trista. How'd that go?
Well, she has a new name, and it's Trista Thompson.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
because I know what that means in a lot of courts of law.
So here's the thing. It means exactly what you're thinking it means. Also shout out to our man Nate. He just hit the DMs, and Nate got the Trista Thompson moniker. So we're sending some D'Lo and KC merch his way.
There we go.
Whew.
And Cam, you're a noob, bro. We have a good time.
I don't even know what's going on.
And we welcome you into D'Lo and KC. We crack jokes. We have a good time. It's all good. I don't think anybody's rattled in the chat.
No.
I don't think so.
No, they're like,
welcome, Cam. Hit the like and subscribe, and hope you enjoy the show, man.
He's like a little bloody spot on a leg in the water with a bunch of sharks at this point.
Don't lose your leg.
So, bro, he can't speak his mind when Sack Bully's out, so it's on site with y'all.
He's ready to drive to Temecula, wherever that's at. I know where Temecula is, but I'm not sure he does.
It's on site. Nah, I appreciate you, Cam. We having a good time. We really don't like the Warriors, but other than that, we just joking, man. It's a good time.
That's funny.
All good.
Oh, look, Cowboys are on SportsCenter.
Hey, Trey Wingo signed a deal with Amazon.
Hey, Trey, good job, baby.
Michelle Beadle and Trey Wingo.
Oh,
Hang on, Hammer. All right, our 1320 Kings insider James Ham back here with us. We've been asking everyone all day when they fell in love with hip hop. We'll just not ask James that question. I don't think James is quite fallen in love with hip hop yet.
I don't know. I mean,
After 3 years with us, though, you're probably as close as you've ever been.
Like, I don't
Jeezy or Gucci, Ham?
I need to I need a cheat sheet of what's hip hop and what's not. So,
Well, you know what? You're not the only one, Hammer. There are a lot of people in 2023 who need that same.
All you gotta do is answer this, Ham. Jeezy or Gucci? Which one?
No, so I don't know.
No?
Yeah.
See?
I don't know, but if you were to put I really enjoyed the Beastie Boys when I was young. Like, I don't know.
Oh, you would say the Beastie Boys.
I don't know.
What are you gonna say? I bet you really like Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly too.
No,
No,
I don't know any. I've never heard a Machine Gun Kelly song.
You know
in my
Eminem
life.
though.
I know Eminem. Oh yeah, I know Eminem.
Beastie Boys. Oh, get this right. Don't mess up this stat. Beastie Boys were supposed to be on the cover of the first Vibe. And I think it was Russell Simmons that said no.
Well, at least he got something.
Well,
right.
I forgot. God, man, there's a lot of guys we just can't reference anymore.
So, yeah, I'm glad that Beastie Boys on the cover of the first Vibe. Wow.
Well,
I don't know Macklemore songs either. I just know he's a big Seattle Supersonics fan, right? So that became an issue.
Yeah, he's from Seattle.
And the only reason I know Machine Gun Kelly, even who he is because he's together with Megan Fox, right? Yeah. And she dumped Brian Austin Green for Machine Gun Kelly. I don't know, whatever it is.
Used to be signed to Bad Boy, MGK.
Wait, word? Really?
Yeah.
Missed that. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. I'm Googling something. Just
this was like
just talk
4
amongst
years
yourself.
ago, too. I guess, pub.
Oh, is that it? Yep, there it is. Okay.
Guy?
So, yep, there it is. Okay. I think it was the second issue of Vibe. It was on the first, James. We'll love this.
I feel like I've seen the first issue of Vibe. Who is it, though?
It's Madonna.
No?
It was Madonna and Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, don't try and clean it up.
Oh, I think I remember that.
The second issue was the Beastie Boys, and that's where he was like, dude, we're not following Madonna with the Beastie Boys. That's not what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I didn't catch on until Janet got
Madonna.
on there.
Yeah.
Dennis Rodman's daughter.
Oh, no, Janet was Rolling
Janet,
Stone.
no. Janet was the one that exploded the Vibe magazine.
Which cover was that?
Well, you're thinking of the
Rolling
famous
Stones
cover.
one. Yeah,
You're
that
thinking
was
of the
Rolling
very
Stone.
famous cover. She just did a magazine cover for Vibe.
Tony Braxton had a nice cover on there as well.
Yeah, you're thinking of the hands photo.
It's classic.
Oh, okay. I know that.
Yep, that's one of the great Rolling Stone covers of all time.
Okay. And didn't Janet do something like that as well?
No, Janet did. That is
did.
Janet. Janet did do that.
Oh, I thought that's what you were saying, Tony Braxton.
No, Tony Braxton, she had a very famous cover of Vibe.
Yeah, Tony's was.
And didn't Tony break up the Triple J's?
Yeah. Yes.
Dallas Mavericks?
Allegedly. Yeah.
Allegedly. Jamal Mashburn, Jason Kidd,
Yeah, I think they just didn't like each other anymore.
Jim Jackson.
They just blamed it on Unbreak My Heart.
See, I'm hanging out. Let's where are we going next?
Oh, that Tony Braxton cover.
Let me see what's going on.
My goodness gracious almighty.
Roy Jones Jr., just in case I forgot.
That Tony Braxton cover is something. And let me X this screen out so I can focus.
So you don't get flagged by
Well, I'm on my computer.
Hey, Tony.
That's X out. Okay. Back to James here. Unless, of course, James is Googling Tony Braxton Vibe cover, then we're in trouble. So we had this conversation about the 49ers. We'll bring it here to the Kings. We've gone over this roster a million times since the season has ended. We've gone over it 1.5 million since free agency has come to a conclusion. Well, you know what I mean by that. Are there any glaring weaknesses on this roster for Sacramento?
I mean, I'm going to keep pointing to the same thing that I always point to. I know I'm just like beating the drum here, but like length and athleticism at the 3 and the 4, even the 5. Again, I've said this last week. Like Nerlens Noel on paper looks interesting, but the Kings need that type of player. Kessler Edwards is interesting, but there's a difference between having that type of length and athleticism and defensive acumen on your team and those players actually being able to play. And I think that's the biggest issue. Like the Kings have like a pretty solid, like you can just pencil or even write in pen at this point, I'd say 9-man rotation that we can already see. So it's not just, that's when we start talking about like, who would you love for the Kings to go get? Like, if you're going to swing for the fence, you're bringing someone in, someone else has to leave. It's not like we're talking about going out and getting OG Anunoby for free. There will be a starter that goes to Toronto if that were ever to happen. And so that's why, like the Kings need some pieces, but what they need is pieces that can actually fit into the rotation and they could actually earn minutes. Because as of this moment, even like a guy like Chris Duarte, who has shown some really, really interesting stuff as a defender, especially in his rookie season. I mean, he held his opponents to 8.4% below their average behind the arc. Like that's incredible. Outside of 15 feet, it was like -7%. Those are really, really tremendous numbers. Okay. But if he's playing 8 minutes a game or 12 minutes a game or 14 minutes a game, how much can he impact the defense? How can the overall defensive number? And those are things where, Mike Brown has to figure out. He's going to have a lot of pieces to work with. And, again, I think he'll work with a 9.5 man rotation. And I don't know that there's a lot of competition in that rotation, barring injuries.
Yeah, I mean, those are the things that, I've always talked about, as far as like these guys that we all want, not just one or two people, like that would be a good addition to this team. It's about, to me, a lot of the times it's about closing the games, right? Are you going to be able to have this guy on the floor at the end of games? And if you are, who's coming off, And I think whoever comes in, that's something that you've got to talk about, because with the Kings, I don't think you're just talking about, hey, what starters are coming off the court and at the end of these games. I think in a lot of times you're talking about you're extending that past the starting five. I'm like, what rotation players are not going to close games no more, i.e. Malik Monk or Davion Mitchell. You know what I mean? You can only have 5 guys out there at a time. Or Kevin Huerter would be on that list as well. So he's going to be somebody that's not closing out games if you go get somebody. So it's not a deterrent to getting somebody like a 3-4, somebody that can finish games. It's just another thing to think about. That's all it is for me.
Yeah. And honestly, like if you're going to make a move, you're going to have to lose a player. So like somebody is going to, move out of the rotation for someone else to move in. And I don't mean like move to the bench. Like we've heard this, like, oh, is there a point where, Sasha Vezenkov will start over Harrison Barnes? And the answer to me is like, no, they're both under 3-year contracts. And Harrison Barnes is a proven two-way NBA player. Like, has he had seasons where his defense has been bad? Sure. But he's also had seasons like last year where it was really good. So like, you're not going to see something catastrophic like that, like a huge swing in who's starting and who's not. At least I don't think, not in year 1, not in year 2. And by that point, they're basically similar ages, So yeah, I mean, Mike Brown is going to have, it's a blessing and a curse to have depth, because you got to figure out ways to keep everybody engaged and everyone happy. And you hope that people take on this Alex Len role where they're okay if they're not playing and they want to play and they want to contribute, but they're okay if they're not in the rotation for 20 games. and they don't make waves, because that's not always the case at the NBA level. And that's why you don't go out and sign a player like Kelly Oubre or a guy like Christian Wood to a 1-year deal, because the only one who's going to make anything off of that is them. You're not going to get anything out of that unless you're only picking them up, playing them, and then trading them at the deadline. There is no real value for you to do something like that, especially when you already have a jam-packed rotation that it would be tough for any of those players to play in.
Hammer, of the guys that you referenced there a moment ago, like Nerlens Noel, Kessler Edwards, is there one that you would really like to see work out based on what you think they can offer the team?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's Chris Duarte. That's the guy that you really look at, because you don't just have him this season. What's he make, like 4.1 this year? I think he makes 5.9 this next year. The Kings will have a player option that they have to pick up for his 4th NBA season, right around, I think it's usually right around Halloween. So he's a guy that not only do you have him this year, but you potentially have him next year. And then on top of that, you have Larry Bird rights to him. And, he's a restricted free agent going into the following year. So he's a guy that you could see fitting for a couple of seasons. And, but it just really depends on how he's playing. And I think the one good thing is that every time I see some Instagram post with Domantas Sabonis, like Chris Duarte is with him. Like he's there working with Doug Christie, and he's there working with Domas all the time. And they already have a chemistry and a relationship from their time together in Indiana. And I expect him to fit right in and be able to, he knows where to get open and how to find spots. And this is just a really smart team. Like when your 9th or 10th guy is that type of intelligent player, and your 8th and 9th guys like Trey Lyles, Sasha Vezenkov, like these guys are in your rotation, but they're not, your top 5, your top 6 guys. Like that's incredible that you're bringing out like really, really smart, like intellectual players that can shoot the 3, that can do multiple things. I think it's a well-designed roster right now. It just has, again, these somewhat limitations, and maybe they're not limitations. Maybe no other team in the league can keep up with what you're doing. And they're going to be the ones who are trying to figure out how to stop, when you have 7 3-point shooters in your rotation. Like that's pretty solid.
So hearing James say all that had my mind going and had me thinking, I don't know if anybody's even said this. I think the narrative, the consensus around the Kings is that they stayed pat. Maybe the question people need to be asking is, did the Kings get better this offseason? Like when you talk about some of the depth they added, and you talk about a Duarte, you talk about a Sasha, you just talk about another year. No, I don't think anybody's saying, like they're asking, did they get better while asking like, well, they didn't pick up nobody. Did they even get better?
Change.
Or, yeah, they're not looking at it like, yo, they added all this. Did the Kings just get better and we weren't even paying attention? I think there's I think they did get better. I'm about to say a real argument. I think they did get better this offseason.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, we talked about this a little while ago, like swapping out guys who are in your rotation or in and out of your rotation in Chimezie Metu and Terrence Davis. Like you got different types of players in Chris Duarte and Sasha Vezenkov, but I'll take the swap out on both of those without any question. I think the players you brought in, they're just more stable players. They're players who, number one, they understand their role, and then they thrive in their role. And I know that sounds weird to say, a guy like Sasha Vezenkov, who's never stepped on an NBA court, thrives in his role. But look what he's done in the European game and how he's found success in his previous stops. So I do think they got better. And on top of that, like Keegan Murray will get better. And on top of that, like having the same coaching staff for 2 seasons, for a second season, you'll get better just with continuity. You'll get better with, all of this team was so haphazardly thrown together and somehow found success last year. But we forget that it's not just like Domantas Sabonis, but also Trey Lyles came over at the deadline, a year ago, February. And then you added Herter and you added Monk and you added Keegan Murray. So I just brought up 5 of your top rotational players that are all new together. And the fact that they were able to find some sort of chemistry and become this offensive juggernaut that they were last season, that should be really encouraging. That I think people should be really excited about that, because the NBA will adjust to them, but they have so much room to adjust themselves. So sure, like people will game plan for you more. People will try to do this thing where they copy the Looney defensive, thing that the Warriors did during the playoffs. It's like, all right, good luck with that, because it's not going to work on a nightly basis. It's not going to work because you don't have Looney. Like sure, the Memphis Grizzlies have Steven Adams. They can do some of those things, but not everybody has that type of player. They can throw at Sabonis and slow him down. And then what he was able to do for 80 games last year was just destroy people. And so I expect more of the same. Will he have off nights? Sure. But he'll also add a 15 to 18 foot jump shot. We know that he's going to. He knows that that's what held him back last season. And what happened the year before? He knew he needed to come in and shoot the 3 ball better. Shoots 37% from 3. Shot it better. Didn't shoot enough, but like this is a player who is going to work to get better and improve. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to score more points or grab more rebounds or get more assists. But if he can add elements to his game that weren't there before, he can be a better player. And that's what I expect from him. I expect it from Fox. And then again, the untapped potential of Keegan Murray, but also like Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter, both young players. They both can improve and get better at what they do. And so there is like a ton of room for organic growth within this team.
You guys just outlined, the players and the potential growth from them. Talked about Davion, Chris Duarte, Casey, everything that you mentioned. And I wonder what this second year means for Mike Brown. It felt like Mike, I don't know that Mike coached differently. Obviously, I wasn't there on the floor with those guys. But Mike's public approach started to change as this team was clearly good, as they got further along into the season, and as they continued to make mistakes. Mike Brown would call them out. We, talked about the New York Knicks game earlier this week where national TV, gutsy win by Sacramento. And Mike's like, yo, we're going to get killed. That we're losing in the playoffs if that's what happens. If we're giving up 23 offensive rebounds, we're losing. I'm curious how different Mike Brown is this year and how different this coaching staff's approach might be to this season.
You know what? You could also look back at that game and look at that as part of the blueprint that got them beat in the playoffs. Because that's what happened.
Yeah,
they got killed on the offensive glass, and the games where they got killed on the offensive glass, they lost big. And the games that they were focused and didn't get killed, and that's why you need, 1 or 2 more rebounders on this team. It helps to go out and get players who are better rebounders. It helps to focus Keegan Murray and make sure that he's rebounding as well. Even like we saw in the California Classic, the one game Luke Laux like joked around about where he went and wrote it on the board during halftime, like, Keegan Murray, I need more than 1 rebound from you in the second half. And he got 0. He finished with 1 rebound, but like 27 points. It has to be an emphasis. And like this team took major leaps and bounds last year as a rebounding team. And I expect them to take another huge step. And it's not just because they have the league's best rebounder. It's because they all have to do a better job of rebounding. And the playoffs it shines a light on people, and it like gives someone an opportunity. But look at some of the numbers that if you go back to the playoffs, the Malik Monk rebounding numbers out of nowhere. Kevin Huerter had a big rebounding game. There are players on this team that have more to give on that end of the floor, and they need to do it on a nightly basis. And lastly, to add to it, I think Mike Brown in year 2, like the genius of hiring a coach like Mike Brown, who comes in with a 616 win percentage, is Mike Brown has expectations well beyond the first round of the playoffs. And that's his goal, is not to get to the playoffs. His goal is to win in the playoffs and to find success in the playoffs and eventually win a championship. And that's where you have a coach that is young enough, with a roster that's young enough that they can grow together and continue to, sort of build on what they did this last season.
I'm just thinking back to the Knicks game and to the playoffs game where they couldn't rebound the basketball. And the one of the things that you said was to talk about the lack of focus. And I look at a lot of that as the lack of the focus from off the top of my head. It's from the guard position. And that's all it really is. I don't think it's something where they're incapable or they can't improve just by keeping the same guys they have, but having the same or having a different type of focus. That's all it takes, because those were a lot of long rebounds. Those were a lot of situations where Domas was kind of doing his job of boxing out a Looney or a Randall or Mitchell Robinson. But the long rebounds that Josh Hart was getting was because the guards weren't rebounding. So, it's something where obviously personnel would help that a little bit. But if those guys lock in and have all five guys locked in on the boards, on the defensive boards, I think you can see an improvement just off that alone.
Oh, I totally agree. And look, Sabonis has averaged like right around 12.3 rebounds a game for like the last 5 years. That's sort of where he is as a player. He knows that's he's a really good rebounder, and he doesn't need to have more than that. What he does need is he needs other people to help out. And so even if you look at his playoff numbers, he averaged, everyone keeps saying how he got dominated by Looney. I mean, he still averaged like almost 17 points, over 11 rebounds, like almost 5 assists a game. Like, he played well. He just didn't play. He wasn't consistently good. And he, like we said before, he had 3 really good games. He had 4 games that weren't great, one of which was bad, like really bad, the one game you can circle. And, but overall, like, it's your first playoff series with this group of players and with this coaching staff. And, they found ways to slow you down, and you took the champs to 7 games.
Kenny brought this. I don't remember why this came up. It was probably a conversation about Domas. It was probably the stupid Bleacher Report thing. That 4-point play doesn't happen at the end of the third, heading into the fourth, and there's actually like a game heading into the fourth quarter. Domas, the stat line is exactly the same. The conversation is completely different. If the Kings pull out that series and the stat line is exactly the same, the conversation is different. But we've convinced ourselves that Kevon Looney dominated Domantas Sabonis, despite the fact that, which never gets brought up, Kevon Looney got benched. I don't think Kevon Looney did anything wrong, by the way. That's just what they chose to do. They benched him. They claimed he was sick. Steve Kerr lied, forgot he lied, told the truth, and we realized that Kevon Looney just got benched in favor of placating Draymond Green, because that's what you have to do in Golden State.
Got to.
And
Kevon Looney had a good series. We'll say that.
And I would have liked to have seen what Domas did the next series, because on the season he averaged almost 20 points, 14.3 rebounds, 8.3 assists against the Lakers.
The Chatty House has messed everything up for everybody, so we're just shutting the show down and we're going home.